as we go forward, some of the things that Elon Musk believes in, example, visas for overseas workers to go and work in Silicon Valley, is not the sort of thing that Donald Trump's MAGA base believes in.
Now, every Thursday we head to the US to find out what's happening in Washington. Alistair Dawber is the Washington correspondent of the Times and the Sunday Times, and he joins me now. Hello, Alistair.
Morning, Hugo.
Happy New Year. I think I'm still allowed to say that. This is my
and to you too.
This is my policy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
The Supreme Court is supposed to sentence President-elect Donald Trump in his hush money trial tomorrow. What's happening there? Is that really going to happen?
Well, the Supreme Court is deciding today whether or not that sentencing goes ahead. The sentencing is in New York. Donald Trump is desperately trying to avoid that, obviously just over a week before the inauguration when he returns to the White House. The judge in the case says, look, just because you're the president, this is a state issue. It's got nothing to do with your role as president. It's about trying to hide an illicit sexual affair with a porn star. So the judge says it should go ahead. Trump's lawyers have gone to the Supreme Court and saying, look, he's the president of the United States. He can't be hauled in front of a court and be sentenced on these matters. And so today we might find out whether or not Donald Trump becomes the first president ever to be sentenced for a felony.
Wow. I mean, how likely is it that this is going to go ahead, and what difference does it make to the inauguration if it does go ahead? These just seem like astonishing things to be talking about at all.
Well, quite. I mean, it's unclear as to whether it goes ahead. I mean, trying to predict what the Supreme Court might decide is a very difficult thing to do. In terms of the inauguration, it won't matter at all, I don't think. The judge in the case has said that while he wants to press ahead with the sentencing, he's not minded to hand Donald Trump a custodial sentence. It'll be some sort of fine, some sort of sanction. So the inauguration will go ahead as planned. And of course, some of the other cases that Donald Trump was facing, federal cases about trying to overturn the result of the last election in 2020 and of hoarding classified documents in his Florida home. Those two cases have effectively disappeared because, as president, he had the power just to cancel those cases. So it's a state case. He could end up, as we say, taking the oath of office in just over a week's time on the 20th of January, having also become the first person ever to be sentenced for a felony, first person to ever serve in the White House to be sentenced for a felony.
But the Supreme Court that's going to be you said it's a state case. So the Supreme Court that's going to be sentencing him is the US Supreme Court.
No. So
right.
The Supreme Court decides whether or not the sentencing goes ahead. It's actually a state case. It's a state case in New York in this case.
Right. So the Supreme Court decides whether the New York court has the right to pass
Correct.
the sentence. Gosh, what
Correct.
a mess. Thank you. Right. I think I understand that now, at least to the extent perhaps that anybody does. Also linked, Donald Trump's incoming director of counterterrorism, Sebastian Gorka, has told the Times that the UK must bring British members of ISIS held in Syrian prisons back to Britain. It's yet another intervention from a member of Trump's team in UK politics, following Elon Musk's social media posts about, everything really, from the National Inquiry into grooming gangs to replacing Nigel Farage as Reform's leader and calling for the end of the Labour government, and so on. How unusual is it for US politicians to provide so much commentary on the politics of other countries?
I mean, to this level, it's almost unheard of. Donald Trump has actually been quite nice about the UK. He met Prince William a few weeks ago in Paris, was very complimentary. But if you're Danish, you know that he's got his designs on Greenland and also on the Panama Canal. I mean, I think it's unprecedented. It's unprecedented, first of all, to have an administration that's not yet taken office to be so vocal on foreign policy and the domestic policies of some of its allies. But it's also the characters involved. I mean, Sebastian Gorka is going to return to the White House. He was there in Donald Trump's first term for a very short period of time. And Elon Musk has really got no real role at all. I mean, he's been put in charge of an efficiency unit that Donald Trump has set up, but that doesn't have any constitutional bearing. I mean, I know that a lot of European leaders, including Keir Starmer, have said, look, this is getting to a point where it's ridiculous. It's starting to feel as though it's trying to interfere in the domestic politics of other countries. I think Elon Musk would probably say, yeah, spot on. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. He spent more than $270 million backing Donald Trump in the US election, it seems to have worked pretty well for him. I think it's unprecedented, but I think it's something we can expect to see quite a bit more of.
Is there any argument that this is good, that at least they care, that at least they're noticing we exist, that there's the sort of potential here, if they're so concerned about what happens in Britain, for a really like a new age of a glorious special relationship between Britain and America?
I think that's not necessarily the spin Downing Street might try and put on it, but who knows? I mean, Elon Musk is someone who's achieved great success in his life. He's been a very, very successful businessman. He's the world's richest person. Maybe there are people in government and in Westminster who think, look, we need a little bit of this stardust to reflect on us, and maybe listening to Elon Musk, we can. We can sort of benefit in some way. But if you look at the sort of details of the tweets and the accuracy of some of the things that that Elon Musk is saying about the UK and other European countries, it does leave a little bit to be desired.
Look, I mean, what do we know about the evolving, if indeed it is evolving, relationship between Elon Musk and Donald Trump? I know there have been suggestions in bits of mainly the American press and mainly the more sort of liberal left-wing parts of the American press that this relationship could be on the verge of breaking down, that Trump's getting irritated with Musk, wants to rein him in, Mind's being told that he's in his pocket and so on. Is that just sort of wishful thinking from the American left, or is there any evidence for that?
I think there's two things. I think you're probably right. I think at the moment it is probably wishful thinking. Donald Trump, as we just discussed, received a lot of money from Elon Musk in his election campaign, and to a large part benefited from a lot of Elon Musk's public statements. I think as we go forward, some of the things that Elon Musk believes in, example, visas for overseas workers to go and work in Silicon Valley, is not the sort of thing that Donald Trump's MAGA base believes in. They believe that a far fewer of these visas should exist. Also, there's just a more general issue about the limelight. Elon Musk is someone who loves the limelight, loves the publicity, loves to be at the forefront of pretty much anything going. I think we can see that in some of the interventions he's made in European politics. That limelight is something that Donald Trump wants for himself. There's only so much of it, and whether or not they can find an accommodation to share it, we'll see.
Finally, Alistair, Jimmy Carter's funeral is being held today after the former president lay in state in Washington, D.C. What can you tell us about what that's going to be like?
It's going to be quite an event, I think. All living former presidents, including Donald Trump, are going to attend at the National Cathedral in Washington. There's been an awful lot said, as you would expect, a lot of nice things said about Jimmy Carter in recent days. Some by Trump, not so nice things. He expressed frustration with Carter just earlier this week that he'd handed back control of the Panama Canal to the Panamanians. But I think we can expect a real celebration of his life. I think Jimmy Carter has a reputation here of perhaps not being the greatest man ever to serve in the Oval Office, but his 40-odd years of public service after he left the presidency, where he's won a Nobel Peace Prize for his commitment to democracy, for his tackling of diseases around the world. I think he's deemed to be the sort of person that Americans live up to, and of course, the only American president ever to live to 100 years old.
And look, I guess Kremlinology might be the right word of seeing all kinds of past presidents assembled together is always fascinating. What are we expecting in sort of body language terms between Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and is Hillary Clinton going to be there? What's it going to be like?
We're going to have a full raft of them. Yes, some White Houseology, if you prefer.
Yeah, that's probably better.
Joe Biden will give the eulogy today. Traditionally, they'll all sit on the same bench next to each other with their wives. The body language will be fascinating. Hillary Clinton obviously lost the 2016 election to Donald Trump. There's a huge amount of bad blood there. Of course, Kamala Harris, the vice president, will be there. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris took chunks out of each other during the campaign up until November's election. So there are some sort of scores that perhaps need to be settled. Obviously not, I don't think, between the pews of the National Cathedral, but I think the body language will, as you say, will be fascinating to watch.
Thank you very much indeed, Alistair Dawber. Alistair is, of course, the Washington correspondent of The Times.